Imagine waking up one day to discover that the normal life you've always known was a carefully constructed lie, designed to suppress the extraordinary power within you. Our story begins in Germany, at a school where a bizarre incident has just occurred. Police are on the scene, bewildered by a blood-covered table lying outside and a gaping hole in the first-floor wall. It's clear this table wasn't just thrown, it was launched with superhuman force. Amidst the chaos, a mysterious woman arrives. Sensing the gravity of the situation, she rushes inside, where she finds a young girl named Wendy hiding alone on the court, headphones on, lost in her music as if to escape reality. The woman approaches gently, introducing herself as Dr. Stern, a government psychiatrist, and promises Wendy a safe haven. In that moment, Wendy's life irrevocably changes. Years later, Wendy is an adult, living what appears to be a normal life. She works as a waitress, diligently takes her medication every morning, and shares a home with her husband, Lars, a security guard, and their young son, Carl. Despite outward appearances of happiness, the family is struggling financially. A devastating letter from the mortgage company arrives, threatening them with foreclosure. Desperate, Wendy decides to ask for a raise at work. The next morning, after a quiet breakfast with her family, she bids Lars and Carl goodbye and heads to the diner. After her shift, gathering her courage, she confronts her boss. She highlights her 3 years of dedicated service and requests a promotion. Her hopes are dashed when her boss not only refuses but tells Wendy she needs to work harder and show more confidence. To add insult to injury, instead of firing her, the boss assigns her demeaning tasks, like taking out the trash. Humiliated, Wendy silently accepts and heads outside. At the dumpster, a homeless man approaches, asking for food. Wendy, after discreetly checking her surroundings, slips him some. The man smiles gratefully, then says something unsettling, "You are one of us." Confused, Wendy dismisses him and returns to work. As her day ends, she walks home, passing a group of drinkers in a parking lot. One calls out, inviting her to join, but Wendy keeps her headphones on, walking past without acknowledging them. Moments later, on a bridge, a man suddenly rushes towards her. Frightened, she assumes it's one of the men from the parking lot and instinctively swings her backpack, hitting him. It's the homeless man. He calmly introduces himself as Merrick, then asks an even more shocking question, "Are you still taking your medicine every day?" Wendy is utterly bewildered. How could this stranger know about her pills? Merrick then reveals an unbelievable truth: those pills aren't helping her, they're suppressing her powers. Convinced he's delusional, Wendy is stunned when Merrick, without warning, leaps off the bridge. She rushes to the edge, looking down in disbelief. Merrick stands on the road below, completely unharmed. But before she can process this, a speeding truck collides with him directly in front of her eyes. Panicked, Wendy immediately calls emergency services before fleeing home, utterly terrified by what she'd witnessed. The following morning, Wendy attends her therapy session with Dr. Stern, but she conceals the truth. Instead, she fabricates a story about strange dreams where she possessed superpowers, quickly dismissing them as mere figments of her imagination. Dr. Stern listens intently, yet her response is unsettlingly detached. Rather than probing further, she simply advises Wendy to increase her medication dosage, claiming it will prevent any future issues. Returning home after the session, Wendy discovers another devastating letter, an eviction notice. The situation is now dire, her family is on the brink of losing their home, and Wendy feels trapped with limited options, her only recourse being to continue working and desperately hoping for that elusive promotion. The next day at work, as Wendy takes out the trash, she's stunned to see Merrick standing there, alive and completely unharmed, as if nothing had happened. He finally reveals the truth: he is a freak, a term for people with special abilities, and his power makes his body indestructible. With this undeniable proof, Merrick urges her again to stop taking her pills, explaining they are blocking her true potential. This time, Wendy listens. That night, before bed, she flushes all her medication down the toilet, then waits. The following day at work, a strange sensation washes over her. She feels intensely sick, her body aching with escalating pain. Then, while preparing food, something incredible happens. Without even trying, she effortlessly bends a steel tray with her bare hands. In that moment, the truth dawns: Wendy possesses super strength. Desperate to keep it hidden, she quickly conceals the tray and resumes work as if nothing occurred. Later, on her way home, she again encounters the same group of bullies. They begin to taunt her, but this time, Wendy tells them to leave her alone. Enraged, their leader attacks her. Wendy falls, but something within her shifts. She retaliates, no longer weak, effortlessly subduing each of them with powerful punches and throws. There's no longer any doubt, Wendy is one of them, a freak. For the first time in her life, she feels liberated, powerful, and truly happy. The next morning, everything feels different. Wendy smiles, greets customers, and works with newfound energy. However, Dr. Stern suddenly appears at the diner, expressing concern over Wendy's missed therapy session and reiterating the importance of her medication. Wendy's suspicions are now fully aroused, but she maintains a facade of normalcy, promising to adhere to her treatment. As soon as the doctor departs, Wendy returns to work, only for her boss to confront her, holding the bent steel tray. Accusing Wendy of deliberate damage, she unfairly declares that the cost of a new tray will be deducted from her salary. That's the breaking point. Wendy snaps, grabbing her boss by the shirt and lifting her into the air. With pure fury, she warns her, "If you cut my salary, you'll regret it." Her boss, utterly terrified, flees back to her office. Shaken by her outburst, Wendy decides to seek Merrick again. She goes to his hideout, where he explains that many like them exist worldwide, but the government is actively trying to control them, using drugs and therapy to suppress their powers. Everything finally makes sense. Before Wendy leaves, Merrick offers one more crucial clue: for answers, she should investigate the building where her therapy sessions take place. Wendy arrives to find the building completely closed and deserted. Pondering how to enter unnoticed, she recalls stories of heroes leaping between buildings. Taking a deep breath, she makes the jump, soaring across to reach a top-floor window. Inside, she discovers a file containing records of numerous patients, and among them, a familiar name, Elmar, her co-worker from the diner. A thought strikes her: could he also be like her? Without hesitation, she goes directly to his house. She finds Elmar in his room, about to take his pills. Shocked by her sudden appearance, Elmar questions her presence, but Wendy quickly stops him, urging him not to take the medication, explaining that it blocks his powers. At first, Elmar dismisses it as outlandish, but being a fan of comic book heroes, the idea of having powers excites him. Furthermore, his life is far from ideal. His father and stepmother constantly belittle him for his perceived lack of ambition. If Wendy's words are true, this could be his chance to finally prove himself. Driven by this hope, he agrees to stop taking the pills. The following day, Wendy feels an even greater surge of strength and confidence. She revisits her boss, but this time, she doesn't ask for a raise. She simply thanks her for it and walks out, radiating an aura of complete control. Later that day, she meets Elmar, who has a revelation of his own. He picks up a lamp and, without touching it, turns it on using only his mind. No wires, no switch, just pure power. It's evident Elmar can control electricity. That night, as they talk, they uncover a profound truth: they both had these powers as children, but after starting treatment with Dr. Stern, their memories and abilities were suppressed. Elmar is ecstatic, believing their powers are a gift, destined for heroism. Wendy, however, sees things differently. She has no interest in being a hero, she just wants to fix her life. Passing an ATM, she kicks it open and takes all the money, intending to save her house. She then encourages Elmar to enjoy some of it as well, and the two head to a nightclub for a night of revelry. Later, Wendy spots a group of men harassing a girl. This time, she doesn't look away. She intervenes, luring them to a more secluded spot, where she effortlessly dispatches them. When one attempts a sneak attack from behind, Elmar leaps in, shocking him with electricity and saving Wendy. Grateful, Wendy thanks him, and they both return home. Upon her arrival, she finds Lars asleep in the living room. As he awakens, she hands him the money to settle their mortgage debt. For a fleeting moment, everything feels perfect. The next day, Wendy goes to pick up Carl and is dismayed to find him being bullied by 3 boys. One even mocks Wendy. Instead of resorting to violence, Wendy grabs their bikes and bends them like rubber, leaving Carl utterly amazed. With the house secured, Wendy fills the pool, looking forward to happy family time, unaware of the impending danger. The men she beat at the nightclub report her to the police, describing a super-strong woman attacker. Initially, the police dismiss it as a joke, until the chief reveals that an expert has been assigned to the case, Dr. Stern, who is now determined to uncover the identity of this powerful woman. Meanwhile, Wendy introduces Elmar to Merrick. Elmar demonstrates his power by activating all the surrounding electricity, completing their trio, Merrick, Wendy, and Elmar. Merrick then reveals the full truth: many more like them are held captive in a facility disguised as a psychiatric clinic. Elmar is immediately eager to rescue them and expose the truth to the world. Merrick, however, is cautious, warning that the clinic is heavily guarded and capture would mean the government hunting them all. But Wendy remains resolute, arguing that these confined individuals deserve a chance at freedom. Elmar wholeheartedly agrees. Seeing their determination, Merrick finally relents and agrees to help. The 3 set off towards the psychiatric clinic. Along the way, an excited Elmar proudly displays a homemade costume, declaring himself Electroman. He even brought costumes for Wendy and Merrick, but Merrick refuses to wear anything, and Wendy simply dons a red wig as a basic disguise. Upon arrival, Merrick and Elmar wait outside while Wendy infiltrates the building. At the entrance, a security guard stops her, denying access. Wendy, thinking quickly, feigns friendliness and asks to be shown to the bathroom. Once alone, she swiftly knocks him out and ties him with tape. Step 1 complete. The next obstacle is the security cameras, which Elmar disables with a powerful electric shock, shutting down the entire system. With the path clear, the trio moves inside to locate the patients. However, their plan goes awry when the guard awakens and, despite being tied, manages to trigger the alarm. Backup is on its way. As Wendy and the others find the patients, a police officer appears, gun drawn, ordering them to stop. Wendy reacts instantly, pushing a table into him. The impact causes him to fire, and the bullet strikes Merrick, but he remains unharmed. Yet, the alarm is fully active, and the police begin to surround the clinic, trapping them. Suddenly, a heavy rain begins to fall, sparking an idea in Elmar's mind. He uses the water to spread electricity, shocking all the surrounding police officers into unconsciousness. The group seizes the opportunity to escape, quickly getting into their car and driving away. But after some distance, Wendy abruptly tells them to stop, her face etched with fear. She wonders if the electric shock might have killed the officers. Merrick angrily chastises Elmar, reminding him that reckless use of powers can harm innocent people. He then shares a painful personal revelation: he once made a similar mistake, which resulted in the loss of his wife and daughter. After this confession, Merrick departs, warning them to be careful lest they repeat his tragic errors. Elmar, however, remains unfazed, still convinced their powers are meant for something grand. Wendy, overwhelmed by guilt, decides she wants no part of this life anymore. She yearns for normalcy. She returns home, determined to focus on her family, even organizing a small party for her neighbors to relax and enjoy. Elmar, however, has other plans. He's not ready to give up. Worried that Merrick might try to stop him, he decides to act first. Elmar visits Dr. Stern, feigning a desire to resume therapy and take his treatment seriously. Casually, he mentions a homeless man who advised him to stop taking his pills. Dr. Stern's interest is immediately piqued, and she presses him for the man's identity. Just like that, Elmar betrays Merrick's location. Hours later, armed agents raid Merrick's hideout. Despite his attempts, Merrick is captured and taken back to the clinic. Meanwhile, Wendy, oblivious to these events, is enjoying time with her family at home. Suddenly, Elmar arrives, this time in a full superhero costume. Wendy quickly pulls him inside, demanding an explanation. Elmar reveals everything: Merrick has been captured, and they could be next. He presents his plan, urging Wendy to join him, convinced that together they are unstoppable. But Wendy refuses, stating she doesn't want to hurt anyone or risk her family. Enraged, Elmar leaves, determined to proceed on his own. After he's gone, Lars approaches Wendy, questioning who the man was and what he wanted. Wendy can no longer conceal the truth. She tells him everything about Elmar, about the powers, and about being a freak, even admitting her own abilities were suppressed by the pills. Lars, however, dismisses it as delusion, believing she's imagining things because she stopped her medication. The situation escalates when Lars decides to call Dr. Stern. Wendy panics, desperately trying to stop him, but in that moment, she loses control. She grabs Lars and throws him across the room, where he crashes violently, injuring his arm. Everyone at the party is aghast. Carl looks at his mother with terror, asking what she just did. Realizing the gravity of her actions, Wendy is overcome with despair and flees, unsure of what to do next. After much deliberation, she decides to seek out Elmar. Meanwhile, Elmar is at home when his father confronts him, yelling his frustration about Elmar's perceived idleness and his obsession with comic books. This time, Elmar retaliates, accusing his father of constant criticism instead of support after his mother's death, and never asking what he truly wanted. For a moment, his father is contrite and apologizes. Elmar attempts to reconcile, embracing his father, but then, without warning, he shocks him with electricity, sending his father crashing to the ground. Just then, Wendy arrives, witnessing the horrific scene. Elmar, however, is unrepentant. He declares that they are special, that they should seize control and lead others like them to a better world. Wendy vehemently disagrees, realizing Elmar has gone too far. This is no longer about helping people, he craves control. She tries to leave, but Elmar stops her, knocking her unconscious with an electric shock. Some time later, Wendy awakens, bound to a bed in a room, with Dr. Stern sitting beside her. She struggles to break free, now understanding everything. The doctor has been concealing the truth. But Dr. Stern offers a surprising explanation. She claims she was only trying to protect Wendy, especially after the incident years ago. Then, Wendy remembers. Back in school, she was once disciplined for wearing headphones in class. The principal confiscated them, igniting a furious rage within Wendy. In that moment, her powers erupted, and she pushed a table with such force that it sent the principal flying through a wall. The memory fills Wendy with guilt. She realizes the true extent of her capacity to harm. Dr. Stern reiterates the need for treatment to prevent her from becoming dangerous. Believing her now, Wendy agrees to remain at the clinic, and this time, the treatment intensifies. Days turn into a blur. Wendy grows weaker from the medication, but she no longer resists, simply complying. Meanwhile, Dr. Stern contacts Lars, suggesting that, for safety, Carl should also undergo a checkup. The stakes are escalating. One night, as Wendy awaits her medication, Elmar appears instead of a nurse. He hands her a Discman, identical to the one she had as a child, urging her to embrace her true self and break free. But Wendy refuses, calling for help. Elmar leaves, but not before delivering a cryptic warning: she will come to him, one way or another. Minutes later, the entire city plunges into darkness, a massive power outage shutting everything down. At the same time, Lars and Carl are at home when a knock comes at the door. It's Elmar. Lars, enraged, punches him, but Elmar remains calm, stating he doesn't want to fight and even offering his hand for help to get up. Simultaneously, at the clinic, the blackout disables all security systems. Doors unlock and patients begin to escape. Wendy also gets out, anxious about her family. But as she's about to leave, Dr. Stern appears with a guard, ordering Wendy to stop. Wendy refuses. The guard attempts to grab her, but Merrick suddenly intervenes, knocking the guard down with a single blow. Dr. Stern retrieves the guard's gun, pointing it at Wendy. She insists she's only trying to help, but her hands tremble nervously before she pulls the trigger. In a split second, Merrick dives in front of Wendy. The bullet strikes him, but this time, things are different. Weakened by the medication in his system, he is no longer invincible. He is gravely injured. Witnessing this, Wendy completely loses control. Consumed by rage, she punches Dr. Stern, sending her crashing to the ground. But it's too late. Merrick is dying. With his last breath, he imparts one final message to Wendy: tell the world the truth. Then, he dies. After this devastating loss, Wendy races home as fast as she can. But what she finds there is terrifying. Elmar is inside the house, standing menacingly close to Carl, with a slot car track laid out around them. Wendy immediately understands Elmar's threat. He can channel electricity through the wires and harm her son at any moment. She demands to know what he wants, and Elmar repeats his demand: he wants Wendy to join him. Together, he insists, they can change the world and control everything. Wendy refuses, attempting to attack him, but her powers haven't fully returned. Elmar easily repels her with a surge of electricity. Wendy falls near the bathroom and sees Lars, entangled in electric wires. Even in this perilous situation, Lars manages to help her, throwing her a pair of anti-static gloves for protection. Wendy grasps his intention, thanks him, and puts on the gloves. Slowly, her powers begin to surge back. She rises, charging directly at Elmar, and with all her regained strength, she shoves him forcefully. Elmar flies backward, crashing through the window, and plunges into the swimming pool outside. But here's the tragic twist: his body is still charged with electricity. The moment he hits the water, the current spreads explosively, delivering a massive electric shock. Elmar becomes a victim of his own power, dying instantly. Finally, the ordeal is over. Wendy has saved her family, but she knows this isn't the end. She tells Lars and Carl that she must leave, that she needs to find others like her, people who are still trapped. Though heartbroken, Lars and Carl understand, allowing her to go. Minutes after Wendy's departure, government agents arrive at the house, only to discover Elmar's lifeless body. Days later, Wendy is now on a solitary mission, searching for other freaks with hidden powers. Her goal is clear: to free them and expose the truth to the world. And this time, she won't stop.